Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you have the opportunity to join me. I'm Dr. Jan. This is Russell Institute of Learning Sidebar Education, and I am going to bring us to a close for this moment in looking at the underpinnings of John Dewey and his articles and how those items within his philosophy have also become part of my philosophy and were part of my philosophy long before I knew that John Dewey had even proposed these items. Now, also, as a teacher, there are times that, we got to get through it because, I already see a few things new on the horizon that I want to talk about. And, we've got to have some courses where, hey, you got to get the foundation and then let's move on to some other items. So let's get with John Dewey's article number 4, number 5, and wrap it up and move on to some other exciting educational pieces of information, and we will continue to come back to my research. I don't think my research is boring, and yet I also want to make sure that we stay as current into looking at how are we going to renew education from this point forward, because I believe children are suffering, families are suffering, because we have not designed effectively an education system that meets the need of the outcome as independent adults, being able to have critical thinking and to have the skills to be in a world where their jobs haven't even yet been created because of technology and our ever expanding world society. We've got to train students with some type of education that allows them to be prepared for a future that has not yet unfolded. So let's go look at, and this is quoting an information from John Dewey around 1897. And the resources, again, I am listing within the discussion. If you would like to go and find more detail about my research, then you can go and download it, read it, and we can then start to interact and have additional discussion. So John Dewey in 1897 demonstrated an understanding in his article number 4, The Nature of Method, that students move through the process of education at different rates, and that predetermined class assignments and academic benchmarking based upon age stifle the true learning process. I could stop right there, and that tells us what we are doing incorrectly in the current. You start school when you're at such an age. You got to move to be in this grade by such an age, and you can't be repeated more than once, and we start off on the wrong foot. So here is the quote from John Dewey. I believe that the question of method is ultimately reducible to the question of the order of development of the child's powers and interests. I believe that only through the continual and sympathetic observation of childhood's interests can the adult enter into the child's life and see what it is ready for and upon what material it could work most readily and fruitfully. End quote. And as I read that, I just thought about my grandson. The youngest one is at 1.5 years. He loves balls. He's been kicking. He's been, oh my goodness, more than we had possibly seen in the other boys. And yet at this time, that would be a place we could meet him at his education. Do I want him to learn to read yet? Yes, no, because I don't want children to lose their childhood. But where you have those levees and pulleys and water and balls that run down, he is ready to learn using balls and movement. Where each of the boys at different places at this age, it may have been something different that inspired their interest. My oldest grandson, we'd sit, as I have mentioned, on the porch at times, and we were just sitting there looking at the ants. And so I don't believe my youngest grandson would ever sit that long yet. So every child has to be met of where they are, what are their interests, what are their capabilities. Moving on to John Dewey's Article 5, The School and Social Progress. reiterated Articles 1 through 4 in describing the correlation between student, school, and society. And Dewey demonstrated his strong belief that education without connection to society for a student is not education at all and is devoid of benefit for society as well. Back to John Dewey's quote, "I believe that education is the fundamental method of social progress and reform. I believe that in the ideal school, we have the reconciliation of the individualistic and the institutional ideals. I believe, finally, that the teacher is engaged not simply in the training of individuals, but in the formation of the proper social life." End quote. My words. Within Article 5, Dewey elevated the teacher from the deliverer of facts to the level of facilitator of lifelong ideals and skills. I go on to say Dewey's educational philosophy included the importance of education beginning with student interest and skills. Dewey determined that education flourishes when community aspects are incorporated within the learning environment. Dewey proposed that connections to society within education should demonstrate democratic principles. Dewey advocated democracy not as a governmental institution, but a democracy of people communicating a shared current existence moving forward into a mutually beneficial shared future existence. My, oh my. Lots of mouthful, lots to think about. I am on it. I want to see something change in our education system so that it is not rote facts only that are being marked by No Child Left Behind and all of the standardized tests, but what is it that we are giving our students in education that is critical thinking and an ability for them to become independent adults that can take fact and research and then determine with cooperation of everyone's voice of what is the best move forward, and that we're not leaving it just to be, well, I'm doing it because that's what I was told. Well, you know what? Just because that's what I was told, I'm sorry I grew up in that manner. I want to research it. I want to know it. I need to believe it's the right place and direction to go. But I also want to be willing to hear what everyone else has to say. And then together, let us create where we should be moving and how we should be getting there. Thanks for listening. Glad you were part of Russell Institute of Learning Sidebar Education. Don't forget, we're powered by the WHERE concept, working at renewing education, and we are moving through this direction together so that we can come out on the other end in a bright and glorious, wonderful education system for our children of the future. Thanks. Please like, follow, comment, and share, and I'll see you again. Bye.